Hello guys, today I am looking at Deus Ex. Wow. It's really hard for me to almost talk about this game because to me this is not only, I would say, the best game on PC, but one of the best games ever made, period. It is absolutely insane how well made this game is and how interesting it is, how diverse the gameplay is, how it allows you to do so many different things, and how we haven't made something like this in the modern day. It's just amazing how many right things came together to make this game at the right time. It was just absolutely perfect. So what is the basic premise of Deus Ex? Well, it's kind of meme notoriety is that it is a conspiracy-esque game, and it does deal with, the United States and the Trilateral Commission, vaccines and, government control and, all sorts of this kind of stuff. So the story and the setting are very interesting. It's in the near future, and essentially you play as secret agent JC Denton for UNATCO. And so basically you're part of this special task force of the United Nations, and you live in this time in America where there are, mechanized robots and all this high-tech, technology and stuff. But essentially there is a certain disease going around, and the only, vaccine available is being made by a pharmaceutical company, which is, essentially thought to basically have made the virus themselves. And so there's this whole thing about the corporations essentially taking over the government. And so Deus Ex and is very, very, very interesting because there's a lot of conversations about the notion of liberty and freedom and what is democracy, what is proper governance, what is control, and what happens when the people lose control of the government. So there's this whole mixture of conspiracy and very realistic, I would say, kind of storytelling. There's nothing here that is, it definitely has a James Bond-esque kind of vibe to it, but at the same time it all feels more or less real. Another thing is that China is, a superpower in this game, and so they have a lot of sort of imperial stakes in the United States. There's a level where you actually go to, I believe, Hong Kong, and you basically have a mission there. And so again, the whole technological pharmaceutical lobby has basically vying for power and taking over the United States. And they also talk a lot about the founding fathers, what America means, what democracy means, and so on, as I've said. So you are a special agent, and your very first mission is basically to take out these terrorists, which have basically occupied the Statue of Liberty and are planning to blow it up. Or what the remains of it, rather. There was the preamble to this is that there was a terrorist attack in New York City in which the Statue of Liberty was destroyed. However, I think in this universe, the Twin Towers are still intact because this game came out before 2001. So there is that whole setting. So the story is extremely interesting. It will take you from places like New York, Hong Kong, Paris, and Area 51 and a bunch of other places. So whoever made this game definitely was a fan of things like the X-Files and also government and conspiracy-esque style stuff. There are also cyborgs in this game, and some of your co-workers, more or less, your fellow assassins essentially are cyborgs of some sort of style. You also have augmentations in your body, so there's this weird thing where, again, pharmaceuticals and technology have combined to create things like enhanced vision, enhanced organs, synthetic, prosthetic limbs, and all this kind of stuff. And so they are kind of the normal things that allow you to have things like, super vision, super strength, super sight, and all this other kind of stuff. And in combination with your energy source, you can basically use those. And it's actually really cool that each major feature that you can use, like super strength and whatnot, is mapped to the function keys on your keyboard. And so you choose which function to activate, and that will drain a power supply that is universally tied to your body. The menus in this game are really, really cool looking. They have a whole sort of design around your body, your ammo, your loadout, your mission objectives, all that good stuff. And I mean, the one thing I do have to get to about this game is the atmosphere. The atmosphere is pristine and so good and unique and distinct. The music in this game is really good. You know, the theme for the New York streets is definitely one of my favorites. And again, what I like about this game is that it's definitely a PC game where, you know, you can find very highly detailed small items in the environment, and they will light up when you hover your cursor over them. And you can basically then choose, you know, essentially, you know, how do you want to pick that item up or add it to your inventory. You also have a bunch of 10 hotkeys at the bottom. Including 0 is usually tied to your keyring, which you use to open up certain doors. This game has, you know, an RPG system, so you can level everything up from, you know, melee to handguns to heavy weapons to sneaking, hacking, etc. Hacking in this game is kind of funny. I mean, it's very simple, but it actually does feel really cool, where you run the same program, which is called the Icebreaker program, over and over and over again, and you can basically hack into different kinds of computers, which allows you to get you know, certain, you know, information to unlock other doors, unlock safes, or activate things like turrets in the environment, or, you know, change the ICC on, you know, patrolling robots and stuff like that, give you access to, you know, security cams, all that really fun, cool stuff. And I think this is where Deus Ex really shines through and is really interesting, because depending on how you spec out JC, what I love about this game is you can approach the same level from multiple directions. So you can go guns blazing, you can do a sneak route, you can do a hacking route. You know, one level, I realized that there's actually multiple ways for me to approach it. And in a game that doesn't have any idea of open world, this does it really well, where essentially the entire premise of, I think, of open world is the fact that the player's playstyle is molded to the game rather than the other way around. Usually we're used to games kind of being this scenario in which you kind of are used to, you're kind of used to learning the game by its own rules, learning what the game wants from you, and then following those rules. But in this one, it's almost like there are multiple paths and different ways for the player to break or trick the game, which is something very rarely we see nowadays, but Deus Ex does it really well. The other thing in this game is the arsenal of weapons is also very cool. So you have your standard pistol, a weird looking submachine gun, shotgun, sniper rifle. You get a mini little crossbow dart thing, which you can use to tranquilize or kill people. You know, you have night vision goggles. And then you have some heavy weapons like the rocket launcher or the Gep gun, which is kind of like the main kind of big laser cannon thing. You know, the main antagonist of this game is, again, the CEO of one of the pharmaceutical companies called Bob Page. And so he basically is, you know, using the vaccine to control, you know, the population that is being infected by something called the Gray Death or Gray Syndrome or something. I forget. I think it's called the Gray Death. And so he's trying to use technology and this AI essentially to take over you know, the United States and other world governments and all this kind of stuff. In fact, you know, I think this game is very famous just for its opening cutscene, which is just a dialogue between, you know, Bob Page and basically one of his bodyguards or agents, essentially, talking about how they're going to take over the United States and manipulate a senator and all this other stuff. Again, another thing about Deus Ex that's great about it is the dialogue is also great, but the sound effects and the environment is just really amazing. You know, when you have an incoming transmission, when you take out your stun rod, when you know, fire your guns, everything is just made really well, and it's really, I don't know, inspiring, shocking how well this whole game is made. So you can also take different damage to different body parts of the body. Again, there's so many different ways that you can essentially explore an environment, choose how to go through it. If you want to hack or lockpick or whatever, it's very fun, and you feel like sometimes you might have missed a different path along the way. I know that you basically have, again, a set of skills which you can upgrade through experience points, And it's really funny because I think the one thing that you can upgrade in this game that is technically very useless is swimming. Swimming is one of the main things you can upgrade, and again, I've never found a use for that. There's very few areas where swimming and being able to breathe underwater can get you to like a secret pathway under the base or something. But again, those are pretty much very rare instances. Anyway, you're going to discover this very multi-layer conspiracy theory, and of course, at the halfway point of the game, you will choose to either side with the supposed terrorists or stay with your current job. I do not go and enforcing this government takeover, which is being backed by a shadow company. Again, the music, the atmosphere, everything about this game is super, super cool. I need to mention one of the cool things is that when you go to the Chinese level, at the end of that, you get basically like this laser sword or this beam sword or something, and it's so cool. It is so, so, so cool. This is like a combination of science fiction and also politics done so right, where it gives you kind of the philosophical talking points without shoving any actual politics down your throat as to who's right and who's wrong. It's just that this is like the world we live in the setting, and it just has that normal action-based theme to it. It's kind of funny because I'm not exactly sure what happened to the series after this, because I believe it was the studio was bought by Square Enix, and Square Enix started publishing these games then, and then you had was it Mankind Divided, or I forget the other one, Beyond Human or something. And those games were okay, but they were never quite as amazing, as good as this one. And I just feel like this was the peak, really, of PC gaming. And I just feel like we're never going to get back to this kind of game. The game itself is pretty linear. You go from environment to environment. Some of them where there will be civilians. Some of them, will be action levels like Area 51. There's very little dialogue. And when you do have dialogue, you do have conversational choices which you can make and get different information out. And again, when you meet the halfway point of the game, you will have a choice to make as to who you side with. There's actually a really funny thing that I love about this game. Like, this is a very proper RPG where even one of the main bosses that you have to fight, if you have a high enough charisma or technology kind of background, you can find out what his kill phrase is. And if you say it to him, you don't even have to do the boss fight. He will literally just die on the spot. And you can just use one word to basically kill one of the hardest guys in the game. I think that's so cool. Deus Ex, again, is probably the most philosophical game I've ever played. I think the only other game that comes close is Metal Gear Solid 2, which again also takes place in New York and is about the government and corporations and molding consent via context of the populace and manipulating everything via technology. And so those two things are very, very similar in their nature, I guess, which is pretty cool. Again, so it has the perfect combination of dialogue, gameplay, thinking, stealth, strategy, all that good stuff. It really is like a perfect game. It is absolutely not only mind-blowing in its story, but also you can just approach any situation you want. You can stealth your way, you can disable the guards, you can do so many different things, and I don't know, it's just so amazing that this game really exists. It's incredible. Throughout the course of the game, you can also purchase and acquire upgrades for your augmentations, so you can move larger objects, for example, with your super strength and things like that. And the ending of the game is also very philosophical. It's funny, when I played it, the one thing it really reminded me of actually is Mass Effect 3, actually. I know people hated that ending of that game, but it's pretty much the exact same here, honestly, where basically you are confronted with three choices. Once you meet this ultimate AI, which is poised to kind of take over the world, you now have three choices as to what you want to do with the AI. So, of course, one option is basically to, destroy the AI, take control of the AI, or synthesize and merge with it. And this is kind of like the I guess, most canon option, where JC, using, you know, half his biology, half technology, is able to fuse with this artificial intelligence and, you know, become this higher consciousness called Helios or something. And it's just really, really interesting, and not something that has a very, you know, normal, boring ending. It's very philosophical and very kind of abstract, which I really love. And again, like, you have the exact same choices as Mass Effect 3, and depending on what you choose will, you know, just be a slight variation on the theme of the game. And it's basically, the ending is basically, you know, based around the concept of transcendence, of technology and humanity coming together and becoming this transcendent being, essentially. And that kind of goes back to the idea of Deus Ex, which means from God. And it's funny that there's a lot of talk about this. You know, even in the beginning of the opening cutscene, they say that, you know, Thomas Aquinas once said that there would be a kingdom or a city on a hill, and that would be the kind of the philosophical endpoint that they're looking for, this perfect world, which is like Eden or paradise on Earth, basically. I actually did some digging into that quote a few years back, and apparently Aquinas never actually said something like that. Apparently it was something that was actually by Saint Augustine in the City of God, or it was actually something said by, I think, one of the founding fathers, that they were trying to build a city on a hill and this was going to be this perfect place, this utopian vision. I don't remember exactly who said it, but essentially the outcome is the same, is that it's the overall context for what he means is pretty much flat out exactly the same thing. Essentially that they want to create this utopian paradise, essentially, with God in it. And even the AI has a very interesting kind of conversation with JC about, you know, what it means to be God. It's essentially that, you know, one is perceived and judged and found good or bad, depending on their actions. And so essentially the idea of a total surveillance state and algorithms that know everything about a person is that they can basically create a God. And that is what the AI is. And when you're confronted with that, you really have to, you know, choose, like, is this something we can trust, something to destroy, something to control, or something to even merge with? And so that is the, you know, kind of philosophical questions that Deus Ex asks, and it's very, very interesting. You know, the campaign is decently long. You're going to get a nice array of different weapons and materials to help upgrade your person, and also, you know, you can figure out the best way to approach things if you want to do more of a stealth approach, or, you know, use explosives or whatever. Again, I'm just so impressed with how many different ways there are to address the situations in this game. It has the absolute, you know, coolest aesthetic I've ever experienced. It combines it with, you know, crazy government conspiracies in a cool way that's, you know, almost like X-Files. And the whole thing is just really, really neat, and I love it. It's so cool, and it's a very replayable game. And it has been referenced and mentioned in many other, you know, places about, like, hey, you know, Deus Ex talked about this weird thing happening, you know, 10, 20, now 25, you know, God knows how long, many years ago. And people are like, huh, that's kind of weird that this game talked about all this stuff and predicted it. But yeah, it's just that kind of game which has such a gravitas and draw to it, where essentially it's so profound in its thinking, and even though it's, you know, a work of fiction based on a non-fictional world, which is our world, it still has a lot of similarities in that I'm sure many people have probably picked up just by me giving a quick summary of this video. There's one scene where, you know, you're in Paris, and there's this Asian woman who owns a bakery, and she's complaining that, you know, the elites are trying to transform, you know, the elites in America and the UN are trying to transform Paris into a cultureless, you know, empty place where there is no French culture, there is no sign of what it means to be French or French independence. And, you know, she's complaining about all these awful things the government is doing, and the overall culture of the world becoming a corporation where employees are more like citizens of a country rather than employees of a employer. And again, you can draw connections as much as you like. I'm not going to say anything specific or significant, but this game really actually makes you think. And it's something that if you have not played, I highly encourage you to play it. Not just because it's extremely thought-provoking, but because the game itself is incredibly fun. And the gameplay styles are very, very diverse and interesting how you approach each scenario. Anyway, I just love it so much. I can't give it enough praise. Again, one of the best PC games and best games ever made. This is my favorite game I've ever played on PC, and I really hope everyone gets to experience it at some point. Anyway, with all that said, I will catch you later, guys. Bye-bye.